Hello, everybody, and welcome into Commodity Culture, where we break down commodities markets, all with the goal of making you a better investor in the commodities sector. My name is Jesse Day. Today is January 14th, 2026, and my guest is the CEO of Kootenay Silver, an exploration company actively engaged in the discovery and development of silver projects in the Sierra Madre region of Mexico, with one of the largest silver resources in the country for a junior company and four different deposits. It's James McDonald. Great to have you back on the show.
Yeah, good to be here, Jesse. What a time, what a day for silver.
Yes, we were just saying that before we hit record today. Silver has been on an absolute rampage recently, shocking even silver bulls with how far and how fast it's moved to the upside as we now sit around $90 an ounce. It's funny, I wrote these questions out 2 days ago and it said $84 an ounce, and I literally had to correct it to $90 in 2 days. Completely blew my mind when I realized that. The last time I had you on the show in August of 2025, you said you thought silver was headed to new all-time highs, but were you surprised by the aggressiveness of the move? And how much farther do you anticipate this bull market could go from here?
Yeah, I was surprised by the aggressiveness of the move. We've been talking about silver making all-time new highs here for the last couple of years because the silver market bull hadn't really started, and well, it is officially underway now. The other thing that we discussed a lot in the past regarding the silver price and silver moves was when it happens, it'll happen fast. But even knowing that is how silver behaves historically. When you see that kind of acceleration, it is mind blowing. We did not expect that. That is an incredible move. It threw 50 up to 90, and it's just the beginning. We're in an uncharted territory. We don't know how high this will go. Bank of America, I was told by a broker yesterday, has put out, I think, 130 or 140 on silver for next year. So just unbelievable. And we've always believed that the silver bull market is going to be on for a few years, several years. It's sort of analogous in my mind to 2002 all the way to 2012 time period, where you saw not just silver, but you saw a real commodity bull market during that time. And here now, gold's been well underway for some time now. Silver's going suddenly again, and that makes not just our new exciting discovery, Columba, important, but all those other three deposits that we have. And so these are coming into play. We've got so much in front of us now, so much exciting things to do. It's a great time to be in silver.
Absolutely. We're going to dive into those details in just a moment. But first, I want to talk about China implementing additional export controls on silver from the start of this year, where only state approved companies can export silver. What do you make of this move? Is this highlighting how governments are starting to wake up to the strategic importance of the metal? Because obviously that's something that's driving the prices, it's industrial use. What are your thoughts there, and how this could affect the supply side of the silver market?
Well, that's an interesting move by China. They've done that with rare earths, a similar thing where you need state approval before you can export. And they refine so many of these metals. That's the thing. They're refining it. And so that's the supply is not necessarily coming from China, but it's being refined there and coming out of China. So that was most likely a geopolitical move. It's a power lever, and it's going to further restrict the availability of physical silver. That's basically what it's going to do. And to how much it restricts it, I don't know, but it's certainly going to slow it down. It's going to take longer to get your silver at a bare minimum, and that is going to further sort of encourage that silver price movement. And no question in my mind about it. That was might have been a big trigger onto this move from 50 to 90.
Now, we've already had quite a shakeup in 2026 in the realm of geopolitics. Trump arresting Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, saber rattling coming from China, a potential war with Iran that could be coming sooner rather than later. Perhaps by the time this video gets posted, there'll be a strike on Iran. It seems imminent. How much do you feel like geopolitical uncertainty is driving safe haven demand for gold and silver?
Really hard for me to measure and understand. It's certainly a contributing factor. There's no question about it. My own belief is that the fundamentals behind the fundamentals behind central banking, sort of fiscal policy, are bigger than those geopolitical storms. And you can look at that just look at in specifically debt and creating more money for that debt. And just go back to about the year 2000 or 1990, if you want to go a little further back. Look at the money supply curve chart and look at the gold price. And silver follows the gold price. And they're both like this, just basically steady up. So I think that's a bigger factor, but there's absolutely no doubt what's going on geopolitically around the world is also fanning the flames there. No question about that. To what extent you can attribute any particular percent move, I have no idea, but it is a contributing factor.
What are your overall thoughts on the current health of the silver mining sector right now? Because interestingly, as silver ripped to close out 2025 and now continuing into 2026, the SIL ATF is now barely outperforming the metal itself. The miners have not caught up to this parabolic move yet. Do you expect that to change here in 2026?
I think it's inevitable, especially starting with the producers and developers, and then the explorers. That's the pattern that always happens, and the sequence it always happens in. But come even in February, when the producers start to report fourth quarter results in that increasing silver price environment, you thought they were making a lot of money before. Watch out. And then the first quarter this year, when that gets reported, this price move, if you go back to the third quarter, what were we? Close to 40. So in the third quarter, if these prices stay steady here, in the first quarter, you're adding $50 an ounce of production, $50 right straight to the bottom line with no additional cost to it, really. You know, so the cash that's piling up is going to be phenomenal. So that's going to be inevitable for those stock prices to really catch up to the silver move, because I don't think they have. I don't think they're not even close on the producers. And then for the developers and explorers like we are, well, we got some big moves ahead for us. We haven't reflected at all what the silver price has done at this stage.
Well, that's a great segue into discussing Kootenay Silver. We had you on the show in August of last year, but for those new viewers and also returning viewers, could you provide an overview of the company and a summary of any notable progress you've made since our last discussion?
Yeah, well, Kootenay Silver, we're an exploration company focused on silver discoveries in Mexico. We've had a lot of success. We now have 4 discoveries. Our 4th discovery, we put a maiden resource out in last year, mid-year last year. Brand new discovery, high-grade silver. It's the kind of silver discovery that can probably work at any sort of silver price, low or high, because of those grades and the widths we're getting. It's an incredible property, 54 million ounces so far to find. And we're looking to push that to 100 million ounces. And we're fully financed for a 50,000 meter drill program. We're about 14,000 meters into that program. It'll be steady drilling and news results right through the end of the year here. And we hope by the end of that program, we'll have increased the resource from 54 million to 100, or very close to it. But in the meanwhile, with this decisive breakout in silver price making new highs, we're starting to evaluate our other 3 deposits, because at $25 silver, they didn't make a lot of sense, or $30 even. But now we're having a hard look at those. La Ciguera, for example, out of all of those three other deposits has 54 million ounce, or 50 million ounces of measured indicated, and another 11 million ounces of inferred at 102 grams per ton in an open pit. Well, our financial modeling on paper showed that in mid 30s, that project started to look really pretty and pretty good, and it would deserve a PA. Well, we're well beyond that, obviously. So that'll be the first of the other three deposits we're going to be moving. So you'll start to see us moving this in conjunction with the drilling at Columba at the same time. So we're emerging out of 2026. We want to go from an explorer increasing the resource base to a developer with this incredible pipeline of projects, four projects, all sort of lined up in the pipeline.
Well, you put out a press release a little earlier this month on drill results from 9 holes in your ongoing Columba drill program. Can you walk us through those results and how they're informing your plans at the project?
Yeah, so good results, and we're focusing on the D vein and what we call the Lupe and B2 veins. So we have our drill plan is sequenced such that the first about 40,000 meters is just going to be on step out drilling from the already defined resource bodies. So we're stepping beyond the limits of those bodies to make them bigger and find the extent and edges of what we already have. So all those holes were sort of pretty much 100 meter step outs from anything else, expanding the size of the mineralized envelope. On the D vein, they were some of the very deepest holes that we've got to date. And what was important about these results were the widths were still hitting at that depth. Still big, wide zones, well mineralized, wide open to depth. And then on the Lupe B2, getting some really nice high grades and really good widths at the same time. Not a lot of drilling over there in those veins yet. There's lots of room. And so very encouraging results. It's more or less what we expect to see. And a lot more drilling, close to 40,000 more meters to go yet just on this program.
That's fantastic. I'd love to get some background on the team behind Kootenay Silver. That's not something we didn't discuss last time. Could you walk us through why the current roster is the right fit to advance your projects, starting with yourself and your own background in the industry?
Yeah, so I've been in the junior resource side since 1988, geologist, and have put together junior companies, been putting them together since 1988. The most significant deal that we put together was National Gold as a shell company. We bought an out of the money gold deposit from Placer Dome in the year 2000. Long story short, we brought in John McCluskey and Chester Miller to help us finance that acquisition. It was a 4 million ounce deposit that only cost us $12.5 million, and we got the title transferred to us with a down payment of 50 grand. But nobody would give us any money because gold was 280 and went to 265. It was uneconomic. It needed over 300. Long story short, that I think it was 4 years later, we're in commercial production, and that was the cornerstone and beginning of Alamos Gold. And it was also my introduction to Mexico and the tremendous exploration potential that exists there. And that's why Kootenay Silver is there. The rest of our team, we've got an excellent staff in Mexico there. A really great office manager, Maria Elena, and then the geologists on site, Luis Moya is the chief geologist, and then the project manager, Roberto Jordan, and then Gustavo Gallego, who was the person who found this property for us to begin with. And they've all been with us from between, I think, 8 years and 15 years down in Mexico. And really professional, diligent, excellent people who couldn't, we're very fortunate to have a crew like that. Then on the board with Chairman Ken Berry, he put the Moss Mine, open pit gold mine in production in Arizona about 8 years ago. And we've got Joe Jufrey and Tony Reda and recently Ron Miller from MNP, formerly MNP. So we've got great broad experience at management and directors level, from finance, legal, uh, to all the technical. And we've put mines into productions. We found deposits, we put mines into production, we've financed all the stages along the way. So tremendous depth for a junior company.
Well, when it comes to catalysts that shareholders of Kootenay Silver can look forward to in 2026, what would you say are the main ones? Obviously, you're going to continue drilling at Columba, so that drill program and the news release from that's going to be something to keep our eyes on. Is there anything else that people should be focused on when it comes to upcoming news flow?
Yeah, so that's going to be the main news flow here immediately. We're also looking now at La Ciguera and getting a PEA underway. We'll have an announcement on that once we get going, and so you'll start to see some parallel activity uh, with the Columba drilling. So Columba drilling, lots of drilling right to the end of the year, fairly regular drill results coming out. Then with La Ciguera, we'll get that moving and we'll start to have news parallel with that. The next step for La Ciguera will be to do a PEA. And we'll be able to get that out fairly quickly because there's not any additional work on the ground or drilling that needs to be done. All the information is there.
And is the ultimate goal here to be acquired by a bigger player? You mentioned you're looking to switch from an explorer to a developer as we exit 2026. Do you see yourselves going into production at some point? And for either of those options, could you lay out a timeline for when you hope to achieve your goal?
So we'll take all the steps necessary to go into production, start the permitting part, start the environmental studies. Those are in fact started at Columba already. We're going to be starting a similar pattern down at La Ciguera. We're permitted for drilling at La Ciguera already, but get our baseline and water studies underway and in place. Start doing the PEAs and moving to feasibility, and the government permitting. So get ahead of the long lead items and getting everything in place that you need to go actually get into production. And so the objective actually is to sell to an already a producer, a mining company. And when you do all these things, you prepare all these things to go into production, you're de-risking and increasing value along the way, of course. It makes it easier to sell to somebody. And in the event that maybe you can't get a good price, you've now positioned the company to just finance the build of a mine and go ahead.
Great. I love it. Keeping the options open while having a clear goal in mind. I want to end by opening the floor to you. Is there anything we haven't yet discussed? Anything you think it's important to emphasize that potential shareholders of Kootenay Silver should be focused on?
Well, with like this silver breakout here, we don't know how high it's going to go. We don't know where it's going to pull back to and settle. Yeah, I think it's going to be some time, months before we know that. There will be pullbacks, there will be consolidation, and then our belief is it'll continue moving upward. But at some point, what's happening here, historically speaking, is you're setting a new base. So the 2002 to 2012 run broke over 50, set a new base that was basically around $20 silver. The old base was around $3.50 approximately. So then the new base was 20. Now we're going to have a new base somewhere. We don't know where that is when the dust finally does settle. But outside of that, we see a long run here on the silver price, still going up. Lots of volatility go with it. And then at some point it'll settle down and form a base and start to go into a sideways movement. The important thing about this higher base is that it's going to be really good for all the deposits we already have. And we'll start putting PEAs out on these systematically on these different deposits just to show what the economics are. So what our objective is to, as quick as we can here, start doing that, show that hey, we've got some viable deposits here to build mines on, and we've got this pipeline of projects that one can come right after the other. And all this growth potential with especially in the Columba project that we're drilling today.
Well, there will be a link in the description below to the Kootenay Silver website as well as social media so people can follow the company. James, great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was a pleasure.
Commodity Culture is a series on commodities and natural resources. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're always up to date with the latest episodes.